It would plunge tens of thousands of people into darkness. Even 5 minutes of darkness would cause mass panic. He couldn't take that kind of responsibility. Juliet insisted that a brief blackout was better than total generator failure, which would mean the end of the silo. In the end, orders from the top meant they could only do basic patchwork repairs. Just then, the generator suddenly surged with high voltage, causing violent tremors throughout the lower levels. And as luck would have it, Mayor Johns had just arrived there. Learning about the generator malfunction, the experienced Juliet decisively entered the generator to make repairs. Thanks to her work, she successfully restored normal pressure. Mayor Johns had witnessed Juliet's competence firsthand and gave her his stamp of approval. He immediately decided that Juliet would inherit the sheriff's position and become the new sheriff. But she refused without a second thought, saying she was fine staying on as a mechanic. The next second, the mayor handed her a sheriff's badge and said this was the late sheriff's dying wish. When Juliet arrived at the office to accept the appointment, she found the mayor's body. Since the silo's equipment wasn't sophisticated enough, there was no record of who the killer was. If word of Mayor Johns' death got out, it would definitely cause riots. According to silo regulations, Bernard from Judicial temporarily assumed the position of mayor, and Juliet, newly appointed by Mayor Johns, took on the responsibility of finding the real killer. She was assigned to work in the former sheriff's office. Juliet noticed the ventilation duct in the room kept making strange noises. Just then, Bernard showed up with a change of clothes for her. Even though she'd been made sheriff, not everyone accepted her. After all, she'd just been a laborer on the lowest levels of the silo. Bernard had always believed she'd committed theft back when she was down there. But given the late mayor's personal appointment, Bernard couldn't say much. On her first day, she found a note on her desk, but before she could figure out what it meant, her deputy burst in. He told the sheriff that someone down below was beating up a citizen. Turns out the deputy had been secretly having an affair with the mayor. He suspected that a thug from the lower levels who sold fake medicine had killed Mayor Johns. But without solid evidence, Juliet just dragged him away from the scene. Then Juliet went straight to the recycling center to look for the former sheriff's belongings, especially the hard drive and decoded diagrams they'd found. But the worker said they hadn't found any of that stuff when they cleared out his things. Meanwhile, Robert from Judicial showed up at the deputy's room and said the department head had decided to remove Juliet from her position as sheriff. The deputy decided they could wait and observe because once Juliet became unpopular enough, she'd resign on her own. But that night, when he returned to his room to sleep, a mysterious man burst out and grabbed him in a chokehold. Luckily, with decades of police experience under his belt, he managed to break free. But when he went back to his bedroom to grab his shotgun, he found it missing. The mysterious man was behind him, pointing the shotgun right at him. Meanwhile, Juliet returned to her quarters and heard strange noises coming from the vent fan again. So she opened it up and discovered a fishing line with a metal ring hanging from it. Following the line, she slowly pulled a bag of documents out of the vent. Juliet was going through files when someone suddenly started pounding frantically on the door. Without a word, the man outside handed her a note. It read that the deputy sheriff had been murdered at home, but by the time she arrived as sheriff, the others had already cleaned up the scene. On top of that, they'd already found some civilian from the silo to take over as deputy. Just as Juliet was about to speak up, Bernard cut her off. His concern wasn't about finding the killer. It was about keeping the silo's residents calm and maintaining order. After they left, Juliet immediately searched the deputy's room. She stumbled upon a note in his pocket. It was the deputy's list of suspects in Mayor Johns' murder investigation. She stuffed the clue into her pocket and headed straight to Bernard's office. Juliet wanted to jump into the investigation right away, but Bernard didn't seem the least bit concerned. He even casually picked up the former mayor's juice and took a sip. His mind was clearly on how to smoothly step into the mayor's role. That's when Robert chimed in with a suggestion. Declare both deaths accidental, hold a single funeral, and bury them together in one grave. It would not only divert public attention, but also spin a touching story about two elderly companions. But when the funeral actually took place, everyone just stood there completely stone-faced.